Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is the newshour special edition this Saturday evening, and I'm Hina Gambhir. And you're watching our continuous coverage of what we are witnessing across the Middle East. Viewers, the Middle East has descended into absolute chaos as Donald Trump decided to unleash hell upon Iran. The Americans launched airstrikes on several cities in Iran with the assistance of Israel. It was a joint operation, and this was swiftly responded to by the Iranians. Iran has now decided to strike American assets in the Middle East. It started with retaliatory airstrikes in Israel, and then it expanded to American assets in different parts of the Middle East. The Gulf nations also are being targeted, the American assets there. But viewers, the decision to do this has complicated matters further, as the Middle Eastern nations, the Gulf nations specifically, have now started picking sides. While countries like UAE and Qatar have declared they have the right to retaliate, Saudi Arabia even went as far as saying that they will join the American operation against Iran, simply because Iran chose to strike sites within Saudi Arabia.
They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass.
The question now being asked is the world on the brink of World War III? Let's bring you up to speed with the top 10 developments. According to reports, Iran's defense minister has been killed. It's only as per reports right now, no official confirmation there. Israeli media is reporting that there has been no contact with Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. We don't know about his whereabouts. Iran says supreme leader and president is alive. Both of them, in fact, are alive. Another important development is that Saudi Arabia has decided to join America in this operation, in this war that we are witnessing between Israel, US, and Iran. Iranian media has quoted that Iranian school was targeted during strikes. As a result, 51 people have lost their lives in the school attack. We got a statement from Hamas as well, urging the Arab nations to retaliate. Then explosions were heard in Kuwait, Bahrain, as well as Qatar. One person lost the life in missile strike in Abu Dhabi as well. Reports are suggesting that that one person was a Pakistani national. Again, no confirmation from Pakistan yet. Supreme leader of Iran is likely to address the media shortly. Earlier we had heard Donald Trump could also be addressing the media later in the day, but later we got to know that's not happening. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei is likely to address the media maybe in a few hours from now. We're keeping a close eye on all the developments. We have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, who is an author, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow IPCS, Shahar Azni, author and former Israeli diplomat, Dr. Doron Avital, ex-commander of Israel's elite special forces, and we also have with us Dr. John Harrison, Homeland Security expert, Ashok Kumar, Associate Professor of Political Economy, Birkbeck University of London. Good evening to all of you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us today. Dr. John Harrison, let me begin this discussion with you. What is it that we are witnessing? Are we looking at World War III right now? Because we all knew that America is going to target Iran. Very soon it's going to happen. There was enough build-up that was happening from January onwards. The signs were there. Perhaps Iran also had a clear idea, and that's the reason why it was ready to retaliate. But the way Iran has retaliated this time, not just by attacking parts of Israel, but the way it has also started targeting American assets in the Gulf nations. Was this expected?
I would say, first of all, it's a little hyperbolic to be saying that World War III has developed. I don't think that's it. If you're looking at that, you would be drawing in other powers from outside the region, and that doesn't seem to be any indication that that's going to be happening. The broader question is, why is Iran attacking, particularly here in the UAE, for example? The Emiratis have been very clear since before the war started that the United States was not going to be able to use bases here in the UAE to attack Iran. But even I think as late as last week, Iran was making it very clear that it was going to attack not only U.S. military interests, but a number of very sensitive areas within the UAE because U.S. companies were here. So Iran was signaling that it was going to try to expand this. And I think it's clear why. Iran realizes the Americans have been very open about this, that this is now about the regime change. So for Iran, the existential threat that they've been preparing for decades is now here. So there is for them at least, there is no reason to hold back. This is only going to end likely with the Iranian regime collapsing, either through the direct action of the U.S., the Israelis, and perhaps others in the region, or the Iranian people. As you mentioned, and you showed in your earlier clip, President Trump saying earlier that this is going to be their opportunity. So the Iranian regime has no reason to hold back. They're not going to be able to bring in China or Russia into the conflict. So right now, they are going to try to intimidate, I think is probably the best term, regional American partners into trying to stay out of the war. And that doesn't seem to be likely at this moment.
Okay. Shahar Azani, what is your sense? I mean, can you tell us what's really happening in your opinion? Because now it's no longer something that's happening between US, Israel and Iran. The entire Middle East has been involved now.
Well, I think that we need to look at this in historic perspective. We're looking at this war between Iran and Israel and the U.S., but the fact is that the Islamic Republic has been at war with the United States, with Israel, and with the region for many decades. We don't need to look back too far, but from the very initiation of the Islamic Republic and the attacks on the U.S. Embassy, moving into the Beirut attack, killing 220 U.S. Marines in October of 1983, to the heavy involvement of Iranian-backed militias against U.S. forces during the Iraq War. So not to mention the terror-supporting networks that Iran has been activating throughout the Middle East. I mean, look, the Islamic Republic has been immiserating hundreds of millions of people all across the region and the world, whether it's destabilizing Yemen, whether it's undermining Lebanon, whether it's involvement in the Palestinian areas with support for vile terrorist organizations like Hamas, and going as far as establishing ties in South America with potential squadrons operating there against the United States in Venezuela and other regions. So in a way, what we're seeing now that's happening is just unmasking of those battles that happened underneath this blanket for such a long time. And in a way, we might as well be able to take out this threat for a prosperous future for the region and the Middle East. And just like President Trump has stated, peace through strength, the ability to forge a future for the Middle East by eliminating a significantly destabilizing region that is now firing at 8 and more countries all across.
Sushant Sareen, what do you make of this view? Because, earlier also when I was speaking with a former MP from the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, also seemed to suggest that, even World War II brought a lot of peace, among countries. So how will you respond to this view coming in from Israel that it is actually to bring peace, not just in Iran, but across the Middle East?
Look, if actually peace was to come as a result of this war, I don't think anybody would mind it. But the problem is that it could just as well end up destabilizing large swaths of territory. For example, in the case of Iran, it's not just a matter of regime survival, it's a matter of state survival in some ways. Because if Donald Trump is to be taken seriously, and there's no reason why he should not be, and what he said in the morning, they want to degrade the entire security structure of Iran. They want to defang it completely. And it is not very clear whatever remains of the regime, if at all something remains of it, and even if nothing remains of it, who's going to pick up the pieces and whether they'll be able to keep the country together. Because there are separatist forces in Iran and there are all kinds of other interests out there. And if Iran descends into some kind of civil war like situation, it will, it will work as a shot in the arm for Israel and some of the other countries, but it will have a destabilizing impact. So I think, and then many more people are likely to die, as we saw in what happened in Iraq, we saw in Libya, in a number of other countries, Syria for that matter. You can say that after 11 years of bloodletting in Syria, there has been some kind of stability which has come back. How long that stability stays, nobody knows. So the thing is that how this war unfolds now, I completely agree with what I think it was Mr. Harrison who spoke. This is not a third world war. I don't see Russia or China stepping into it, except for issuing some condemnations. But it is likely to be a larger regional war, simply because, if some of the other Arab countries which have been struck by Iran decide that they're going to throw in their lot with Israel and the United States, we don't even know when they say that they will throw in their lot, what that means. But if they were to do something like this, then, it has all kinds of other implications in terms of stability in the region, including the sectarian angle, including, state stability, all sorts of other problems would emerge. If none of that happens, and as what the previous speaker said, things settle down, I think everybody will be happy for it. But there are no guarantees in war.
But the question is, when will the things settle down? Do we really see that happening in the near future? Who is going to blink first? I mean, there are countries who will try to play the role of a peacemaker, but, who will really listen to these countries? Will Trump listen to them? Will Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, listen to them? Because when the statements came out this morning from both America as well as Israel, the sense we got was that Iran is posing an existential threat to America and Israel. And that is the reason why it's important to get rid of this terrorist regime. Professor Kumar, that was the statement we got from both the countries. And the point is that, was it just about nuclear deterrence? Was it just about regime change? Or there's something more that's happening?
Well, I mean, we know that it's not about nuclear deterrence because there was the Obama agreement with Iran, which Trump broke, which was about that. Oman, which was the peacemaker in negotiations in Brussels, already had an agreement from Iran. We know that Israel, the Israeli diplomat, ex-Israeli diplomat, saying that Iran was at war for since 78, 79. It's Israel that's been at war with every country in the Middle East since its very inception, because ultimately there's a broader goal of Israel, but also they see everybody as a threat. And so this war really was an inevitability because Israel's wanted to have this war for decades. I mean, 20, 30 years at least. And they see Trump as their last hope because the winds have changed. Public opinion in America is very anti-Israel now, from both left and right. It's not politically palatable to go to war, and Israel's obsessed with Iran because Iran supports the axis of resistance, the only force that holds accountable Israel, which, by the way, has committed genocide for the last few years, and whose leaders currently have ICC warrants out for arrest for war crimes. So it's important to remember when someone calls Iran a terrorist country, Israel has bombed 9 countries in the last 2 years. Iran has responded to those bombings, but if anything, Israel's the aggressor, and Iran is responding to Israeli aggression, American aggression. To pose it as something else is, I think, fantasy.
Okay, Abhijit Iyer Mitra wants to come in, then Dr. Ranganathan.
Look, these are rhetorical points. First, let me take the opportunity to thank Iran and America, so Israel and America, for doing some of our dirty work for us. The thing is, we have certain converging interests with Israel and America, and we have certain diverging interests with Israel and America out here. Think of Iran as a chicken. We want it perfectly roasted, which is to say we want the nuclear program eliminated. We cannot allow Iran to become nuclear. At the same time, maintaining the Shia-Sunni split has brought huge advantages to India in terms of breaking up the jihad in Kashmir. It has yielded very significant dividends in terms of divide and rule that we've been able to do in the region for a while. And therefore, it is necessary for that regime to continue for our interests. So we want the chicken cooked and well salted. We don't want it burnt and, over salted in that sense. This is where our interests converge, and this is where our interests diverge. Now, this is where, on one hand, we thank America. They are, controlling the nuclear program. Yes, but we also need to understand why they went in here and why have they taken this step to change the regime? Regime change was never in their interest. It wasn't in our interest. Why has it gone there? Because the Iranian regime has consistently, persistently lied. Tell me one single time that they signed a deal where they went caught cheating somehow or the other, enriching without permission, creating some new facility outside of safeguards, etc., etc. Just 3 months back, we had Masume Ebtekar, the former vice president of Iran, come about saying, we need the enrichment program because it maintains that duality. It's a bargaining tool. Now, when you have a former vice president come out and say this, give me a break. Give me a break. We have seen some of those documents, redacted documents, but they were very clearly planning on making a nuclear bomb. Now, I disagree with the Israelis in that I think it's a realpolitik regime. I don't think it's a maniacal, suicidal regime. I think the thing is India can actually absorb nukes and still survive. Israel doesn't have that luxury. So we'll always approach this from a very different viewpoint.
Okay, Dr. Ranganathan.
Good evening, Hena, first of all, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I'd like to congratulate you for having such a diverse panel. You got Indians, you got Israelis, and you got the spokesperson of Hamas in the Professor Ashok Al-Kumar. The fact of the matter is, it is Israel that is the victim. It was Israel against which genocide was committed on October 7, 2023. To say that Israel is perpetrating genocide, Israel is a terrorist state, is completely out of Hezbollah and Hamas's textbook. Maybe that is what they teach in whatever university this Ashok Al-Kumar comes from. Now let me come to the topic at hand. There are 2 issues I'd like to talk about, and again as a layman. Number one, everyone seems to be swimming, Hena, in a sea of hypocrisy, if I may say so. The fact of the matter is, Trump included, are hypocrites par excellence because they are the ones who said that we have eliminated the nuclear threat of Iran with those bombing, if you remember. And since then, there have been nuclear talks going on and Oman being the arbiter. And as it transpired, and this is official communique by Oman that said that Iran has agreed to each and every clause that Americans persisted. Number one was that it will open itself to complete inspection by IAEA, and it will completely stop, permanently stockpiling. And hours after that, Oman's declaration, we see these strikes. Number two, the fact of the matter is that Iran is not the only despotic regime that has nuclear arsenal. I mean, there are more dangerous regimes, North Korea, for example. And if you were to talk about current despotic regimes that America thinks are despotic, that are nuclear armed, I mean, include Putin and Russia as well. So there is hypocrisy in why only Iran. The fact of the matter is, yes, Israel faces an existential threat because of Iran. So you can excuse the hypocrisy there. Now, let me very quickly come to what India is facing or going to face. I'm afraid it's going to be pretty dark, because the fact of the matter is we've had invested quite heavily in the Middle East. You talked about the number of Indians that are working there, but I'm not just talking of the humanitarian disaster that is on the anvil. I'm talking of the trade ties. I'm talking of more than 62% of India's oil imports coming from the Middle East. I'm talking of India having invested $150 million in the Chabar port, out of which billions we are gaining out of trade that we are conducting, avoiding the Pakistan route. So I think destruction of Iran does not augur very well for India as far as the trade is concerned. But what it augurs well is that in the new realpolitik, as my good friend Abhijit talked about, we may get closer to America. And of course, we are friends of Israel.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Doron Avital, I'll come to you in just a bit. Allow me to, get Mr. Ashok Kumar, Professor Ashok Kumar, to give a quick rebuttal to what Abhijit Iyer Mitra said and what Dr. Ranganathan mentioned. Yes.
I mean, obviously, I'm in the RSS wing of the television world, which are just like blindly obsequious during colonial periods with the British and blindly obsequious with the Zionists in Israel. Now, let's talk about the reality, not the fantasy that they were talking about. It's a reality that the key vulnerability for the U.S. and Israel, well, they're one and the same, really, in the way they operate now, is that if Iran follows through with the actions that they've said they would, which is attack the American fleet, which is a key vulnerability, or attack oil refineries across West Asia, then that accelerates the possibility, because it's really a question of two forces, and which one will be able to upend the other's vulnerabilities. And the key vulnerability for the Americans is if they sink one or two ships, let's just say, then that would force an already unpopular war, which, 2-1 Americans oppose this war. I mean, Britain, until basically 2 hours ago, was also not going to war because it's so unpopular in Britain. It would raise the stakes significantly for the Americans. So it's not that they're just operating and bombing other places. They're saying, we're about to up the ante.
Okay, Professor Kumar, I'm just interrupting you there. There is some very, very important piece of news that's come in just now. Reports are suggesting the IRGC Navy has announced via VHF radio that no vessels are being allowed to cross Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz has been closed. This is significant. This is a very, very big news that's come in. And Sushant Sareen, this will have a direct impact on the oil prices across the world.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. One, earlier Professor Ashok Kumar was talking about Iran attacking Israel attacking 7 countries without provocation. In each of those cases, the attacks came from those countries onto Israel, and Israel retaliated, whether it was Yemen, whether it was any of the other countries. So, this kind of dissemble happens in, I don't know, whichever university is teaching in. Thankfully, my kids are not going to that. Secondly, on the closure of Straits of Hormuz. Look, one, that was already expected. That will happen. In fact, that was one of the big fears. But the question is, for how long can they interdict the transport in that region? But I think it offers a very tantalizing possibility to India. There are about 40 million barrels. Somebody was just sent me a message. There are about 40 million barrels of Russian oil on the high seas. And perhaps if the Europeans and the Americans were to be a little more sensible about oil prices worldwide, I think India can take over a lot of that oil and process it and sell it back without being limited by the Straits of Hormuz. But even if that was to happen, let's face it, we have very vital interests in the Arab world. A lot of trade flows out there to and fro. We have our people out there. Energy security is, of course, a very important thing. and connectivity projects are at stake. So yes, but hopefully if this is a temporary dislocation, we'll get over it. Iran in that sense is important in some ways, but not in terms of trade. We are hardly doing any trade with Iran.
Oil-wise, trade-wise, I mean, it doesn't really matter a lot, but of course that Strait of Hormuz, the path that's there, that's extremely critical, and that's what the world is worried about. Let me go across to Dr. Doro Navital as well. He's been waiting for quite some time. Now, what is the plan that Israel really has, many are asking, because can both Israel and US sustain this kind of a war for a very long time? I mean, look at what is happening right now. You've got the entire Middle East that's on edge. I mean, Dubai International Airport, the busiest airport in the world, it has shut down. Can the world really afford this kind of a situation? It's not just about, oil here. We're talking about a lot of other issues, the entire aviation sector. I mean, we're talking about a lot of issues that this war can really bring, not just for, one country, but for the entire world.
No, there's no question. Nobody can predict the future and the consequences. We see in the end, we reached this point after the attack of Sinwar, and this has created a chain reaction that brought us to this moment. Now, to sustain the war from the perspective of Israel, now that we are in tandem and completely in tune with the US, so of course we have a bigger window and the capability to sustain the war for longer time than if it was only Israel by itself. Remember, the previous attack was 12 days, and for us it was we achieved our goals, and this is where it ended. But right now it's open to, I think, three possible trajectories. One of them really that it would be contained in a near time, and the Iranian would come back, whatever regime would be there, would come back to the negotiation table. The other one is a tit-for-tat kind of a conflict that will take some longer time, and I don't want to think of something bigger, regional escalation that involves other entities in the world. In the meantime, I don't see it coming, but nobody saw it in the 7th of October, that Syria would be freed from the Iranian grip, that Lebanon, Hezbollah would be so weak, and the Iranian would lose so much hold in the territory that they were holding around Israel. So it's hard to predict, but this is a major event, and we have to be very careful and see how it goes.
Okay. How do you see the situation, Abhijit? I mean, just look at the visuals that we are showing to our viewers right now. We showed our viewers what's happening in Dubai as well. I mean, nobody really expected that something between US, Israel and Iran is going to actually spread to the entire Middle East and to even places like Dubai. The missile strike that actually happened in the heart of Dubai, we've got the visual of the exact moment. I mean, just look at how badly even places like Dubai are getting impacted. What do you make of it, and how serious is this in your opinion?
Look, the Iranians said they will attack all American interests, American military stations across the Middle East. So they attacked Jordan, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, which all have legitimate bases. Dubai does not have an American base. Why did they attack Dubai? And mind you, if you notice, this is a drone. This is a Shahed drone coming down. So they can't even make the claim that this was a ballistic missile that veered off course after it was intercepted. This was an eminently steerable drone. What you're seeing is evidence of a war crime. And it is targeting the Fairmont Hotel in Palm Jumeirah, which is a civilian target. They are deliberately targeting civilians. This is, Iran has a long history of doing this. They were very liberally using chemical agents during the Iran-Iraq war, of course. The other side was also doing it. That's a different matter. I'm not going to go down that path. But they have a very, very long history of doing it. Remember, who helped Assad get all those chemical agents that he used in the Ghouta attacks and things like that? This has been a very, very systematic campaign by the Iranians. I expect them to, the more frustrated they get over the next 2-3 days, unfortunately, I expect them to do more civilian targeting, maybe strike the Burj Al Arab and the, particularly iconic locations like that. Why are we surprised? This is a regime that kills its own people. Right? Why are we surprised? Why should we expect anything else? They'll tell you, well, it's because of the strike on, the girls' school. Can I tell you, when Israel targets, when people die, it is the exception. It is not intentional. It is collateral, which sometimes happens in a war. Here, you literally have video proof of a war crime being committed. This is a slow-flying drone. It could have been veered off course. They didn't do it. They knew exactly where it was going. They allowed it to fly, and they allowed it to come down.
And in fact, we are getting more inputs because it's a developing story, Dr. John Harrison. Iran has reached out to Middle East nations as well. Talks were held with Saudi, Qatar, Kuwait and UAE. Iran reaffirmed right to self-defense. And now we are getting more inputs from Dubai specifically. Dubai authorities are confirming that an incident occurred in a building in the Palm Jumeirah area. Emergency response teams were deployed immediately and the site has been secured. Dubai's civil defense has confirmed that the resulting fire is now under control. 4 individuals sustained injuries and have been transferred to medical facilities. Dr. Ranganathan and then Dr. Harrison.
No, it's very clear. The fact of the matter is, this is no longer a war between two nations that were warring. I mean, what was the fault of Dubai? I really want to ask. Yes, as Abhijit rightly said, you could, in fact, Iran could say, we are retaliating because wherever we are attacking, it's either Israel that is at war with us or United States interests. Well, you attack a hotel in a nation that is not at war with you. So absolutely right, this is a war crime. But above and beyond that, there are 2 things that one needs to look at it from a different perspective. I think the first perspective is, yes, trade, yes, tariffs, and I hate it, to bring this in, because now as the world prices, oil prices are going to shoot up, I just hope Trump realizes what he realized 3 years ago, that he would want us to buy more and more Russian oil. Which is what he asked us to do, and now hypocritically imposed 25% tariffs just when he felt that we should not be buying more Russian oil. So I think the closing of the Strait could be very, very drastic development, escalation in this war, because please remember, 60% of Indian oil and 52% of Indian the gas comes from that strait. Now, if you close that, and if that is closed for, I don't know how much a longer period that we can afford it to be shut, India is going to be forced to take action. Do we want that? Now, I don't know what kind of action India would take, but we have to look after our strategic interests, because let's face it, if America is, if Israel is, why should we be bystanders? We got to get our energy, our interests sorted.
Absolutely. We need to take care of our interests, and that's going to be the most important thing. Sheher Azani, now another important aspect is, both America and Israel want a regime change in Iran. We're just moving forward and talking about what next. Even if regime change happens, not via the Venezuela way, perhaps some other way that Trump has in his mind, who next after Khamenei? I mean, what is the plan that is there? I mean, are we likely to a situation wherein America is going to say we are taking control of Iran till people of Iran are ready to take care of themselves, something that like what we've seen happening in Venezuela as well?
Well, you are correct. Looking at this is a scissor movement. We have to have, on the one hand, the attacks that are coming from the United States, led by the United States for U.S. interests and supported by Israel. And on the other hand, there has to be a movement that comes from the people, for the people, to liberate Iran from those many decades of control by this draconian terrorist regime. But I do want to make one statement, because I kept quiet while Hamas spokesperson, who's no longer on the air, spoke before. And it absolutely disgusts me that we would listen to someone who would look at the blood of tens of thousands of innocent young Iranians who seek freedom and would advocate as an obsequious factotum of evil, who would stand by genocide, who would deny and completely ignore the October 7th massacre. I do understand that on this panel we're talking about interests and realpolitik. I do want to make the voice of humanity heard. This is an evil regime. And true, there are other evil regimes out there in the world. But if we are able to take that step and release the Middle East and the Middle Eastern region and the world from the stranglehold of a regime that has taken billions of dollars, and just like Hamas, instead of investing it in hospitals, in creation, in development, in AI, in the future, has put it in ballistic missile, nuclear program, and the rape of innocent demonstrators in the Evin prison, then we have to stand up, not as diplomats, not as politicians, but as human beings. And this is what I call upon all of our viewers to listen to.
I think we all, agree to the points that you're making, but I just want to clarify. He was a guest on the show, Ashok Kumar. He was Associate Professor of Political Economy, Birkbeck, University of London, not Hamas spokesperson. I mean, you're all entitled to have your views, but I just wanted to make one thing very clear because we gave him the platform because we wanted to also hear the other side. What is it that they have to say? Hence this clarification. Now, same question to you, Dr. John Harrison. The question is, what's the plan that America and Israel really have? If both of them want a regime change in Iran, what next?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's
the plan. This is where the...
Dr. Harrison first, then Dr. Avital.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a $64,000 question, obviously. And I just want to put one slight other thing in context here. And while I understand globally, the Straits of Hormuz are very important to the global economy, it is of immediate existential importance to the countries in the region. Just about all of the food for the region is imported. It all comes through the Straits of Hormuz. The UAE has tried to balance off some of that with some other developments with Etihad Rail and a few other things. But this is a major concern, obviously, for the people living in the region. So I think if we want to talk humanity, and I totally agree with all of your guests, that it is very easy for us to sort of take a step back and look at this from the bigger picture. But there are real lives and real issues here at stake. Anytime you engage in the potential for regime change, there's always that question: do you have the intelligence that says Group X or Y, who are maybe, if not aligned with your interest, at least not violently opposed to them, is going to be able to take and then hold power? I don't think we know that, and I think that's really the concern. That is, the devil you know worse than the devil you don't. But in this case, it is seen that the current Iranian regime has taken every decision it can possibly take to make sure that it is not going to meet reasonable international efforts to try and, if not denuclearize, at least control the nuclear program. Okay. If not completely getting rid of the proxies, at least controlling the proxies. If not completely changing the regime, at least reforming it. And Iran has made every single decision that it can in the worst possible way. And unfortunately, it has led to the outcome this weekend.
Okay. Dr. Avital.
Well, there's no vacuum in history for sure, and I think the plan was, or the way Trump thinks about it, or Bibi thinks about it, that the shock would be so dramatic in terms of the technological superiority. You see the difference between the forces that the US and Israel bring to the game and what the Iranians can bring back, that it would force in the end some kind of transition within the Iranian society, or would succeed to create a wedge between, say, the Iranian military and the Revolutionary Guard. It's hard to expect or predict such things, but I'm sure that in our plan, on the US plan, there's no plan like taking Iran the way US did in Iraq and create a regime change in this fashion. Surely the goal is a regime change, but the way to do it and what would be the consequences and whether it can be contained and not escalates to a regional war, this would be the challenge both to the US and Israel in this context.
Okay, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, how do you see this intention of the United States of America, of Donald Trump specifically, to actually call in for a regime change in Iran? Because just till yesterday, we were talking about Geneva talks. Within few hours, we got the news of strikes in parts of Iran, a joint operation by US and Israel. I mean, what could have possibly changed? Do you think the setback that Trump had to face because of tariffs, what happened in the Supreme Court there, he needed something else to show to his base, to his people, and that's the reason why he turned his attention to Iran. He left the talks perhaps midway and went into this particular operation.
I doubt that very much, Hina. I hear people say Epstein and all the reverses and things. This has been planned for quite some time now. The Iranians themselves green-lighted it when they decided to start building their rebuilding.
I completely agree with you. But, specifically I asked this because yesterday only we were discussing Geneva talks. Yes. We were thinking that perhaps, something is going to happen there. And then suddenly within a few hours, what really changed? What made it an existential threat for Israel as well as America?
Right. And it was always an existential threat for Israel. And the reason for that is I do believe the talks were strategic deception. They wanted to see if the Iranians were in fact going to cooperate. I think they made a strategic calculus out there that the Iranians were going to do what they always do, which is sign deals and then lie behind everybody's back. The Iranians will always come back and say, oh, well, Israel has nuclear weapons. Please understand, Hina, Israel never signed the NPT. They have no legal obligations to not make nuclear weapons. Iran signed the NPT and it has been consistently cheating on the NPT. There is a very big difference. There's no equivalence out there. Now, and Iran, which has consistently acted against its own interests, expending huge amounts of money on foreign policy ventures that have destroyed it, and doing this on a very consistent basis of the last 30, 40 years, this is the sign of a very dangerously ideological regime. Now, I disagree that it is a suicidal regime. The thing is, Indians have, because Iran is not our enemy, we maybe have the luxury of seeing Iran go nuclear. Israel simply can't take that bet because the last time somebody said that he was going to kill all the Jews, he actually did it.
And in your opinion, what next? Even if there is a regime change, even if both Israel and America manage to do with Iran what they are planning to do, given how the current situation is, what next? What are we looking at?
Look, I don't think regime change is feasible or easy right now. I have lots of family in Tajrish, Shemiran, which are the northern suburbs of Iran, and in Kashan. They're not happy with what's going on. They don't like the regime, but they certainly don't like what's going on. The Iranians do tend to be quite nationalistic. They tend to band together at times like this. We shouldn't confuse the unpopularity of the regime with the support for an external intervention. Second, we also need to remember there is no regime change possible, humanly possible, without boots on the ground. And third, we need to remember that Iran is half the size of India. It's 1.6 million square kilometers, heavily mountainous terrain. Yes, it is a desert, but it is a high desert. It is a very mountainous desert. The Iranian plateau is a very rugged piece of land. I'm not too sure you're going to, I don't think this is going to result in regime change. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, now another important aspect that has come during the day on this particular issue is about the real intentions. Now, many are saying that if America really wants to target Iran and its military bases, etc., then perhaps it should take the help of Pakistan if it wants to hit Iran from the eastern side specifically. And we know the relationship between America and Pakistan, how it has evolved over the last few months, specifically between, this war that we are also seeing simultaneously between Pakistan and Afghanistan. US has come out and said openly that it supports Pakistan. So what could be the real intention? Because Trump is not reaching out to Pakistan to take the help of its, air bases to target Iran in any way. So what's the real intention, people are asking?
Yeah, on a lighter note, Hina, both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have accused each other of violating their defense pact because Saudi Arabia has not attacked Afghanistan and Pakistan hasn't attacked Iran when both of them have been attacked by the respective thing. Now, that just tells you, what kind of a laughable defense pact that was. But can I just add to what Abhijit said? And I agree with all his points, except to add this. You cannot, I repeat, cannot denuclearize Iran without a regime change. And America has tried it. Anyone can try it. It cannot be possible with bombing. So the only way you can denuclearize Iran is through a regime change.
Okay. We'll leave it there. It's a developing story. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining us here on Times Now, the NewsHour special edition this evening. We tried to cover a lot of aspects of this story, but more updates are coming in, viewers, and we'll keep you ahead on everything that you need to know about what's happening between Israel, America, and Iran. Heading into a very short break right now. We'll be back with lots more. Don't go anywhere.